In the aftermath of a devastating 93-58 loss to the Indiana Fever, Chicago Sky forward Angel Reese shifted the spotlight away from the scoreboard and onto the stands, making claims of racist harassment by fans that quickly dominated headlines and ignited a league-wide conversation. While the scoreboard showed a lopsided defeat and Caitlin Clark dazzled with a triple-double performance, Reese's post-game comments painted a starkly different picture, one of personal trauma and hostility from opposing fan bases. The timing of these allegations, however, immediately raised eyebrows. Enter sports commentator Skip Bayless, who wasted no time dissecting what he perceived as a distraction tactic, calling out Reese for deflecting blame and framing herself as the victim in a rivalry she herself helped intensify. Bayless argued that the WNBA is walking a dangerous tightrope by failing to protect its biggest draw, Caitlin Clark, while simultaneously enabling narratives that shield players like Reese from criticism after poor performances. While Reese insisted her safety had been compromised, Bayless and others questioned whether the post-game narrative was truly about protection or about pivoting away from a humiliating loss under the national spotlight. Reese's emotional press conference saw her express heartbreak and discomfort over what she described as racially motivated taunting from fans during the Fever game. She described an emotionally taxing atmosphere and alleged an ongoing pattern of fan hostility that had followed her throughout the season, particularly from Caitlin Clark's growing fan base. Her voice shook and her body language indicated visible distress as she detailed the experience, which she claimed wasn't just an isolated event, but part of a larger, systemic problem plaguing the league. The footage quickly made the rounds online, amplifying both support and skepticism. While some fans applauded her courage in speaking out, others questioned the sincerity and timing of the claims, especially given how quickly they followed a blowout loss in which Reese struggled significantly. Public opinion was split, and Bayless again weighed in, cautioning viewers to examine the broader context before accepting such serious allegations without scrutiny. According to him, Reese had begun to develop a reputation for deflecting criticism by playing the victim card when her on-court performances fell short. The press conference, while emotionally charged, raised more questions than it answered, especially once the league began to look into the specifics. Following Reese's allegations, the WNBA launched a full-scale investigation into her claims, examining fan behavior during the game through video footage, audio analysis, and interviews with team and arena staff. The results were definitive. The league stated it found no evidence to support Reese's allegations of racially charged comments from the Fever fan base. A formal statement was released, confirming that based on all the information gathered, there was nothing to substantiate Reese's version of events. The league reiterated its commitment to maintaining a safe and inclusive environment, but made it clear that no violations of the fan code of conduct had occurred during the May 17th game. This development significantly undercut Reese's narrative and reignited criticism from both fans and analysts. Bayless called the report a turning point, describing it as a reality check for those quick to manufacture controversy. If no evidence could be found after such a high-profile review, then the only conclusion left was that Reese's claims had been either exaggerated or entirely unfounded. It wasn't just a reputational issue for Reese. It was a credibility test for the entire league, one that now found itself dealing with unnecessary drama during a season already under pressure. Bayless's criticism didn't stop at the surface level. Contradictions. His analysis was methodical, even surgical. He openly acknowledged the very real presence of racism in online comments and sports environments, but drew a clear distinction between general social media toxicity and targeted fan behavior in arenas. He argued that while no one should discount the impact of racist language, using it as a shield to deflect from in-game failures risks trivializing serious issues. Bayless emphasized that the timing of Reese's complaint, coming immediately after one of the worst losses in Sky franchise history, could not be ignored. He also pointed out the danger of making these claims without proof, especially when they overshadow meaningful conversations about racism in sports. According to him, Reese had developed a troubling pattern. Whenever performances dipped or games went south, a controversy seemed to emerge that shifted the narrative away from the scoreboard and onto supposed external factors. Bayless warned that while these diversions might generate sympathy or social media engagement in the short term, they ultimately undermine trust in players' integrity and distract from actual solutions to real problems. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark has emerged not only as the league's biggest draw, but also as its most targeted player on the court, and not just by defenders, but seemingly by officials as well. In a nationally televised matchup against the new York Liberty, Clark and the Fever were at the center of 3 controversial no calls during the final seconds of a close game. Fever coach Stephanie White called out the officiating as egregious and disrespectful, pointing specifically to a missed foul on Clark's final shot attempt and a phantom call against Lexi Hull. The contrast was jarring. In a league where star treatment is often the norm, Clark seemed to be getting less protection despite being the face of a WNBA renaissance. Skip Bayless highlighted these missed calls as evidence of a broader, more troubling trend. Clark, who fills NBA arenas and boosts national TV ratings, isn't just being ignored by officials. She's being left vulnerable. This isn't merely a failure of refereeing. It's a calculated decision by league leadership to avoid giving her perceived favoritism, even if it comes at the cost of fairness. That trade-off, Bayless warned, could ultimately backfire on the entire league. Behind the scenes, a deeper issue simmers: the growing resentment among veteran WNBA players who see Clark's meteoric rise as an existential threat. Bayless pointed to whispers of jealousy and frustration from seasoned players and team executives who feel overshadowed by a rookie who doesn't engage in social media theatrics or polarizing statements, but whose every game draws millions of eyeballs. These veterans, Bayless suggested, have quietly voiced concerns to coaches and front offices about the attention Clark receives. Rather than embrace the benefits of a league-wide ratings boom, they see her success as a disruption. The WNBA, fearing a player revolt, has reportedly instructed officials to avoid giving Clark preferential treatment, resulting in physical, often dangerous play against her going unpunished. This environment fosters bitterness and pits old-school players against the league's brightest star. According to Bayless, the league's leadership is more concerned with keeping peace in the locker room than with protecting the very player responsible for their recent surge in popularity and revenue. What makes the rivalry between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark especially combustible is that it didn't arise organically. It was manufactured. Reese, by publicly antagonizing Clark and embracing a role as the villain, set a tone that reverberated through the Chicago Sky's locker room. What began as competitive intensity escalated into consistent targeting. In each game, Sky players displayed a level of aggression toward Clark that went beyond basketball norms. What looked like defense on paper often played out as intimidation, tactics on the court. It became increasingly clear that this wasn't about winning. It was about neutralizing Clark at any cost. This mentality, fostered and perhaps even encouraged by Reese's public persona, transformed the Sky into antagonists, not just in the eyes of fans, but across the league. Their strategy wasn't just ineffective, it was obvious, transparent, and ultimately damaging to the integrity of the game. Bayless argued that in trying to turn Clark into a villain, Reese had only succeeded in turning herself and her team into the real antagonists. Fans have not been blind to this dynamic. The contrast between Clark's professionalism and the Sky's antics could not be more stark. While Clark consistently shows up, keeps her head down, and delivers jaw-dropping performances, the Sky appear more interested in creating drama than in winning games. As a result, public perception has shifted decisively in Clark's favor. Every hard foul, every missed call, every heated exchange feeds into the narrative of a young superstar battling not just her opponents, but a league that refuses to protect her. The Chicago Sky, meanwhile, have developed a reputation as bullies, more focused on rattling cages than climbing the standings. Bayless noted that the more the Sky leaned into this role, the more fans began to rally behind Clark. She became the underdog with grace under fire, while the Sky earned the role of villains, not through media spin, but through their own actions. The most troubling aspect, however, is the WNBA's unwillingness to take a clear stance. According to Bayless, the league is quite literally biting the hand that feeds it by refusing to protect Clark on the court and by caving to internal pressures rather than embracing the marketing gift they've been given. WNBA leadership is jeopardizing long-term growth for short-term appeasement. Every missed call sends a signal, not just to players but to fans, that the league isn't ready to fully embrace its new superstar. The concern is not that Clark receives too much attention, but that she receives too little protection. This failure in leadership undermines not only Clark's safety, but the credibility of the WNBA as a serious professional league. When a player becomes synonymous with explosive growth and historic ratings, the correct response isn't caution, it's celebration and support. Instead, the WNBA is cautiously sidestepping, too afraid to upset veteran sensibilities to do what's right. Looking ahead to the rest of the 2025 season, one narrative stands tall: Caitlin Clark's redemption arc. After enduring months of physical punishment, media scrutiny, and league-wide jealousy, Clark stands poised to turn adversity into ascendance. Angel Reese's attempts to create a spectacle have only furthered the gap between them, one focused on basketball excellence, the other on headlines and drama. As Clark returns from a short absence, the stage is set for a historic second half of the season, with fans more invested than ever before. Ratings are climbing. Social media engagement is exploding, and Clark's influence is undeniable. According to Bayless, Reese may continue to draw attention for her off-court antics, but Clark will be remembered for changing the WNBA. The spotlight will follow talent, not noise, and no amount of manufactured drama can dim the star power of Caitlin Clark. As the league struggles to reconcile internal politics with undeniable fan interest, one thing is certain: Clark isn't just the face of the WNBA, she's its future.